Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great? Good. Back in ancient times, about 10 years ago, when we only had but two genders, I wrote an email to Lee Precision with an idea. Why not make, as an accessory, a micrometer setting stem for their existing line of seeding dies? It was such a brilliant idea that Lee's response was silence. New reloaders may be asking why such a thing would even need to exist, and allow me to give you a few examples, and we'll use this 30-06 seeding die as an example. Now, if all you ever do is religiously follow the recipes in a reloading manual, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, the need for a finely adjustable seeding die is probably limited. You experiment until you get to the recommended overall length, and Bob's your uncle. Set it and forget it. And if you want to ensure that if you accidentally change the setting that you can get back, you could just scribe a line from the stem to the body to be able to return it to your preferred setting. However, there are some problems with the standard seeding die. If you happen to load a particular caliber for more than one rifle, and I use this die for both my M1903 and M1 Garand, you're playing that adjustment game every time you load for the other rifle. And this die is only coarse adjustable. There's no reference points anywhere that translates into easily understood adjustments. You have no idea how much you're actually dialing up and down the seating depth. Set, seat, measure, repeat until you finally get there. That's important once you take that next step in reloading and start playing with overall length or seating depth. Changing the seating depth affects things like pressure, bullet velocity, and accuracy. And by adjusting the seating depth, you could really fine-tune your ammunition's accuracy. With the standard die, however, it's difficult to change the depth in predictable steps. Well, Lee finally read my email because I was responsible for this, as this year they released the Lee Micrometer Adjust Screw. It's a universal micrometer stem for their seeding dies that purports to allow you to be repeatedly precise in adjusting your seating depth and seating those bullets as a result. And it comes in three flavors: handgun, rifle, and large caliber rifle. This, of course, is the rifle version, and it runs 20 Trump tokens or 30 Kearney coupons. And today, we're going to see if it was worth my weight and money. How it works is not exactly rocket science. Let's use the aforementioned 30-06 seating die as our test subject. All you need to do is to remove the adjusting screw that comes with a seating die. You'll find here the bullet seating plug. You need to keep that. And then you just screw the micrometer adjust screw until it meets the top of the seating die body. And there you go, Bob's your uncle. It is installed. As you can see, each hash mark translates into 0.001 inches or a thousandth of an inch of adjustment. So presumably fairly precise. Now you can ostensibly remove this micrometer adjust screw, transfer it over to another seating die, do your business over there, bring it back to this die, dial it in to whatever you had before, and you should get rounds exactly of the same overall length again. Well, at least should. I don't know about you, but I don't trust anyone. So let's find out for ourselves. So we're going to test its accuracy two different ways. The first will involve us removing the micrometer adjustment screw, fiddle-faddle with the settings, then put it back on the seating die and dial it to an arbitrary setting. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this test what our completed cartridges are supposed to be in terms of length, only that they're consistent at those lengths. And in the second test, we're going to change the setting to see if we can reliably change the length according to these hash marks. I'm going to dial back the adjustment 0.01 inches. And if this tracks correctly, that means we should get overall lengths of 0.01 inch longer. So let's start with test number 1. Okay, now test number 2. Okay, let's measure these out. Here we have the 5 completed rounds with the initial setting. And with our trusty Origin Cal caliper, let's see if they measure out at a consistent length. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Cartridge number 1. And we've got one that comes in at 3.036 inches. Okay, I'm just going to write these down. Okay. Cartridge 2 comes in at, let's make sure we get this squared off, 3.036 inches. So the same as the last one. All right, that's good. That's an auspicious beginning. Cartridge number 3. Let's see what we've got here. 3.039. Okay, so a little bit longer. Number 4. This one is, of course, you know, doing this on camera, I'm a bundle of nerves. All right, this one is 3.039, just like the last one. Wow. Okay, and then finally, cartridge number 5. And we have, oops, apologies. This one is, well, one not like the others, which were not like the others. It's 3.034. So the shortest of the 5 initial ones that we made. Okay, so right about now you're seeing on the screen some statistical data, which may or may not illuminate what it is that we've actually done. Now, here are the 5 cartridges that we have produced when we adjusted the micrometer adjustment screw to be 0.01 inches longer. So let us see what the results are. Cartridge number 1, we've got 3.050. Okay, 0.50. Cartridge number 2, we've got 3.048. 0.48. Cartridge number 3, we've got 3.050 again. So cartridge number 4, we've got 3.050. All right, well. And finally, the last cartridge. Take your bets, take your bets. What do we got here? We've got 3.048. Okay, so once again, There is some statistical data on the screen. Were these results acceptable? As is the tradition on this channel, let's start with cons. Now, Lee's propaganda video for this says, and I quote, "It's so economically priced, you want one for each die." Well, if you reload 1 or 2 calibers perhaps, but I reload about a dozen, and at 30 nearly worthless Canadian dollars each, that's a lot of economically priced to have to afford if I wanted to kit out all of my seating dies. Now don't get me wrong, $20 US or 30 Canadian isn't totally outrageous, but in today's world, that is a bit of a chunk. Now the good news is that one of these can easily transfer to each seating die you use, and if you record the numbers, it's an easy setup for each caliber. But you may still consider this a luxury since you don't actually need this. Now, accuracy of results. Well, if you're expecting absolutely reproducible results that extend to a thousandth of an inch, I think I showed in this video that you're likely to be a little disappointed. Now, if that's a requirement for you, this micrometer adjust screw and more modestly priced reloading equipment probably is not for you. Okay, now on to the pros. Setup is stupid easy. You saw it earlier. As long as you know how to screw, you can get it in. Now, while I would have preferred black text on a white background, I still found this fairly easy to read. The construction is nice. I wouldn't call this heavy duty. Unlike Lee's dies, this appears to be made out of aluminum. That said, I can't imagine through normal use that this would get damaged, so you should be fine. The adjusting screw is as smooth as golden. Now that's a reference for my fellow Canucks of a certain age. Infinitely adjustable, they say. And that presumably means you can set it as precisely as you can read and replicate the marks. But the big one is accuracy. See, it's in here in pros as well. Now let's be honest with each other. Lee has long had the reputation of being on the lower priced end of the reloading equipment world, and with that comes a reputation for presses and dies having a little more flex as a result. Now there is some element of truth to that, but I have to say that I've also managed to create shockingly precise ammunition, dimensionally speaking at least, with Lee presses and dies. Now perhaps I'm magical, or perhaps fans of teams blue, green, orange, and other shade of red are exaggerating Lee's presumed faults just a little. So with that, is the adjustment screw powered Lee seating die in a Lee press putting out consistent ammunition in terms of overall length? Well, as I showed earlier, on a round by round basis out to the edges of measurement, generally not. Mixed results, however you'd like to put it. Now, whether that's due to flex in my Lee press or case neck tension, consistency of bullet ogive contact, etc., that translated into slight variations in length or an issue with the adjustment screw itself, I couldn't tell you. However, what we're looking at are differences of at most a few thousandths of an inch. And let's remember, the standard of accuracy for most micrometer seating dies is a thousandth of an inch. Outside of fanatics for, atom level consistency, I think that's acceptable. All that said, do I recommend this? Or in other words, if I could have my 30 nearly worthless Canadian dollars back, would I trade it in? Well, no. I actually do like this. I think Lee did a nice job with this micrometer adjust screw. And when you think about it, the price of a Lee seating die and this adjust screw now gives you the ability to be reasonably precise with adjusting your bullet seating. And it's far cheaper than the high-end offerings out there. though those high-end offerings also do tend to hit 5/10,000ths of an inch of precision. Do I think this matches their performance? Well, no, obviously it doesn't. But I'm also not shooting against Air Cortana and need hyper precision in my ammunition. For my purposes, the micrometer adjust screw does what I need it to. I can quickly set or adjust bullet seating depth and overall length and do it reasonably reliably. One of the key things in reloading is consistency, and this does get you pretty darn close to that goal. Now, having said that, if all of your dies are already set up and you don't experiment often with seating depth or overall length, I actually don't think this is necessary. So with that in mind, I do recommend this. If you have a few spare dollars burning a hole in your pocket, make a habit of experimenting with seating depth and overall length, use Lee dies, and can live with their precise slight imprecision. At any rate, I hope you found today's video to at least be vaguely entertaining and mildly informative. As always, I hope all of your reloading adventures pay off handsomely. Take care, and bye-bye.